I'm here at Prahran Market with Gary McBEAN from Gary's Quality Meats. This is where I buy my meat. I absolutely love this store. And it's so exciting to be here with you to have a little chat about different meats and what we might use them for. So we're going to start with beef, and we've got different pieces of the animal here. So do you want to just talk us through it? Like, what have we got and why would we use particular cuts for particular dishes?
Yep, no problems then. So what we have here is we have some short ribs, okay? Short ribs, a piece of Scotch fillet, a piece of sirloin, and Scotch fillet on the bone, which is ribeye, and that's the ribeye in the piece for roasting. And we have a chuck as well, which chuck is for a slow cook, casseroling, pies, that sort of thing.
Let's start with the chuck. So where on the cow is the chuck?
The chuck is right up part of the neck, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So the neck down into the shoulder.
All right. And why would you use this for slow cooking?
It's what we call a secondary cut. So it's part of the animal where the shoulder gets a lot of use.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different muscle fibres. There's like 5 or 6 different muscle groups that are in there.
So it's a muscle that works hard?
It works hard, yeah.
Okay.
So it's quite a tough piece of meat if you try to cook it like you'd cook a sirloin.
Okay. And then as you slow cook it, what happens to those fibres?
Oh, so the fibres break down, all the marbling fat there, that all breaks down, and the collagen becomes part of the flavour.
Yeah.
Okay, and the slow cooking eventually becomes very tender.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
flavoursome.
So it's that rewards slow cooking.
Yeah.
That's what we use our chuck for. All right, fantastic.
Long and slow.
Great.
Yep.
All right. And what about the short ribs?
Long and slow. Short ribs, the same thing actually. You can see all the marbling, the fat running through it.
Yeah.
It's another secondary cut from the ribs. It gets a lot of use, the muscle. So that's the same thing. It's a slow cook, usually around about 2 to 3 hours on a low heat.
Okay. And what I love about ribs is that they really soak up a lot of flavour as well, don't they? So a beautiful meat to marinate and then cook slow.
Yeah, that's right.
And they love a little bit of crisping up at the end too.
Yeah, you can do that. There's a few ways you can cook it. You can actually cut it a bit thinner.
Yeah.
And you can just cook it for not as long, like an hour and a half, and you can finish it off on a high heat.
Yeah,
get that crispiness.
nice. Get a bit of crispiness.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. And what have we got next?
We have a Scotch fillet, piece of Scotch fillet.
That looks beautiful.
Okay, it's amazing, yeah.
So it's obviously got quite a bit of marbling through it as well, which is those bits, the fat running through it.
Yeah, well, we try to select cattle that's around 2.5, 3 years old, where marbling becomes natural. It occurs naturally as the animal becomes a bit older, rather than yearling beef, 18 months, 12 months, 18 months.
Okay.
It can be very, very lean.
Yeah.
So the older the animal, the more marbling.
Okay.
It'll
and that
occur.
fat is flavour, isn't it?
That's where all the flavour comes from.
Yeah. Okay. And so tell us how we might cook that one.
I always cook my Scotch fillets on charcoal. So charcoal or a barbecue, usually high heat, quick high heat.
Yep.
And with the steaks, we try and turn it every minute and a half.
Yep.
Okay, so it gets intense heat from top and bottom. It cooks through nice and evenly.
Beautiful.
So you always have that, like medium rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And what do we got next?
Sirloin. So that's the same muscle actually. So it starts off high up near the shoulder.
Yeah.
As it makes its way down the loin, it becomes a little bit leaner.
Okay.
Down here. So the sirloin is the same muscle group. Starts at the top and makes its way down.
Yeah, right.
Where it becomes a bit leaner. So not everybody likes a lot of marbling in their meat. So
it's a personal preference. If you wanted something a bit leaner, you could choose.
You could choose that.
The sirloin.
Sirloin, yeah.
Beautiful.
And cooked the same way.
Yeah. Okay. So nice fierce bit of grilling.
Yep.
And eat it medium rare by preference.
Yeah.
All right. Now this one's been aged, hasn't it?
This has been aged. Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about that process and what it means?
Okay. So we dry age a lot of beef. Here it's mainly the primal cuts, the better cuts, the rumps, sirloins, T-bones. So we put in a purpose-built dry aging room behind me. So the humidity sits on 85. So the reason for that is if it's too high in humidity, it gets too much moisture on the outside of the meat and doesn't really dry out, so it can create a mould. And if it's too low, it dries the meat out too quick.
Yep.
So that can be a little bit too dry, so we've got to try and find a happy medium. So.
And why do we want to dry age our steak anyway?
Well, dry aging, actually, it breaks down, the fibres break down in the right condition.
Yeah.
So the room sits on 0 to 0.5, so it's really, really cold conditions.
Yep.
And it has quite a strong airflow in there. So what happens is it loses moisture slowly,
Yeah.
which enhances the flavour of the steak.
Okay, so intensifies the flavour?
Intensifies the flavour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as it's breaking down at the same time, so it becomes more tender.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of, it's a process that's happening within the meat.
Yeah.
So it's losing weight but gaining flavour.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic, I love it.
Yeah.
So what would you do with this beautiful piece?
We can actually roast that, okay? If you've got a Weber or even in the oven at home.
Yeah.
I always like to brown it off on a frying pan first, both ends, and roll
Yeah.
it around, then pop it into a hot oven.
Amazing.
Just to sear it. And then we can cut steaks. I can actually cut a steak for you now if you like.
Sure.
That's,
That just looks so beautiful. And would you recommend this one medium rare as well?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
All the primal cuts medium rare.
Gorgeous. I've learned so much. I feel like I'm really well equipped to go home with the right piece of beef for the right meal.
Oh,
Thanks so
that's
much, Gary.
Thank you, Dani. Thanks very much.